there. I'm Emmanuel Apsis. I graduated in 2009. And since then I've worked at KQED producing a weekly reading series podcast called The Writer's Block, in which writers come and read from their new work, and it's led to some interesting experiences like being called Kid by Patti Smith and being called Super Greek by David Sedaris to the tune of Rick James's Super Freak. So I can die now. And today I'm reading something called Pets, Pets, Pets. The demolition of our union does not remind me of the Civil War and all its bloodshed, nor of Perseus sawing off Medusa's slithering head, but either would do. Instead, I think of my pet hamster. My Greek mother didn't think kindly of animals in the house. 3 children were more than enough, she said. Wild beasts, she often called us. We knew about her paranoia of some creature tearing into her plastic-covered living room set, or rattling the cabinet that housed armies of crystalline objects. Those things were not meant for touch, only admiring glances could brush against them. Why do we have 2 whole rooms that we can't live in, I would ask. She never had a good answer for this, but I was pretty sure it had to do with those moments she felt hollow and had to draw on some strength or confidence. Instead of finding this well of comfort within herself or in blood relatives, or perhaps a neighbor that made her laugh, I had a feeling she would instead picture her pristine chintz couches, with a glass lamp in the form of a Victorian woman waltzing, or a porcelain bowl that had never met the hard curve of a spoon. Sometimes I would sneak into the unused dining room and position my body horizontally on the tucked-in chairs under the wooden table. I would wait and wait until someone finally called my name or asked after me. This was a good feeling. The sensation of one's absence shifting patterns, the idea that one's being was noteworthy. While they hunted for me in the yard or behind boxes and debris in the basement, I would keep quiet and picture the ghosts that probably inhabited these 2 rooms right under our noses, while we were so preoccupied with petty squabbles and television and who had more or less. I imagined the ghosts going about their ghouly business. An older woman who wore each of life's betrayals on her long, sallow face and carried a knife. A younger man in clothing too big for his narrow body, looking for his severed hands. A beautiful woman in a tattered dress, holes in her shoulders and thighs, in her cheeks and eyes. I built this crime of passion brick by brick each time I hit here, eventually getting to surnames and dates. But that moment when my disappearance shifted from uncertain to critical always intruded, poked holes in the fantasy, ripped the air from its lungs. My mother would position herself between the front window and the lace curtain and look out with the phone pressed to her ear, calling this person or that person, anyone who might have seen my curly dark head yanked into a white van with no tags. This desperation took all the fun out of my little game. I would try to cover my tracks by tiptoeing back to my room and feigning sleep until someone would come and see me there, pillow creased and warm, and say, "He was right here all this time." I played along and couldn't tell how well I did this, or if it mattered. Despite my mother's position on pets, I would beg and beg for anything with a heartbeat. I often recruited my younger sister, who was more demanding and dramatic than me. She could stretch the word please until each syllable sparked with exhaustion. Eventually, my mother would try to compromise. How about a fish? I quickly set my little sister on a new word, boring. The pet debate remained at an impasse for quite some time, leading me to visit the local pet store and grab 2 fistfuls of fire-bellied frogs while the teenage cashier wasn't looking. I ran across the highway trying to fit them all into my pockets, eventually turning up at a Blockbuster where I regrouped and counted my bounty. 7 frogs out of 13. Not bad. By the time I left, I had lost 4 more. I hid the survivors in the bathroom for days and tried to feed them lettuce and fruit snacks. They seemed afraid, so I left them free. One day in Spanish class, the blonde Catholic girl who sat in front of me turned around, yanked my tie, and asked if I had any room at my house for a hamster. Duh, I said. Pretending to be the boy I secretly wished I was, the breaker of rules and hearts, the messy boy with dirt in his hair and scabs at each knobby joint. She believed this performance and arranged for her mother to bring the hamster at the end of the school day. My mother was chronically late to all things: church, flights, funerals and weddings, and picking me up from school. I used to sit under a towering pine tree with Lauren Anderson, a girl with no parents, only a forgetful grandmother in a turquoise minivan. We never spoke in class, never shared bits of our lunch or even a stray greeting in the halls. But all that didn't matter when we sat there, overlooking the oval driveway in front of the school and the dramatic wooden cross erected in its center, because we shared invisible things, like the gnawing urge to run away, escape with a knapsack tied to a stick over our backs, or the rabid terror that the world could gobble either of us up at any moment and no one would even notice. This girl was there when my mother turned the corner in her red Toyota and saw me with a cage and a face sloppy with mischief. "That better be hers," she yelled angrily. Lauren glanced at my mother's foreign rage and then to the back seat where my sister sat giddy with anticipation for another major meltdown. "Good luck," she said, as I walked as slowly as I could to the car.